Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is mindset, and we're going to cover daily ways to control anxiety. So first of all, what we say here in the title is control, which another way of wording this would be manage, but in no way are we saying eliminate. So a lot of people who deal with anxiety, sometimes people will tell them like, "Oh, well, just be happy." No shit. Of course, the person would want to be happy, or oh, just get over it, or oh, think happy thoughts, or they think it's like kind of like a light switch. You can just kind of flip it off, and you're choosing to just be anxious and miserable about nothing, and it's can be very frustrating when you hear advice that way. So I work with people with nutritional disorders as well. So like anorexia, bulimia, and a whole bunch of other like variations of those things. And I had a history of it myself when I was younger. And often, if somebody sees somebody like under eating, and like say somebody's like anorexic or bulimic, and they'll just say, "Oh, you look beautiful. What are you doing? Just eat food. You're fine." It isn't that. Like there's a lot of layers to it like eating disorders. There's a lot of layers to anxiety and depression. There's a lot of stuff that builds up to create those kind of emotions and mental states in people. So it's more so something that I think you manage throughout life rather than just kind of you can eliminate, turn off, and never deal with it again. So what we're going to talk about today are 8 ways that you can kind of work to manage or control anxiety on a daily basis. Now, there are way more than 8, and I've read actually several books on this. I've dealt with anxiety in my past, and it was something that I wanted to get a hold of because I felt like my happiness was being robbed from me in various moments. I found myself with loved ones and not being able to enjoy the moment because I was thinking of some, stupid fear where I just felt really uncomfortable. I still have a hard time trying to explain how I felt during those moments of high anxiety, but your body just feels uncomfortable. You don't want to be anywhere. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to look at people. You don't want to talk. You just kind of don't want to exist. And it's a very, very, very rough, weird, hard feeling to deal with. And it was something I hated in the way that I had to feel when I was having those moments. So it's something I wanted to work towards trying to correct. And in no way whatsoever am I an expert in any of this, but these are things that I did that helped me, and they're things that I've worked with clients in the past that have helped them. So I have worked with clients in the past before I had anxiety issues of my own on how to help them work through anxiety. I never really had maybe as personal of a connection as I do now, having experienced it myself, but there were tons of things that worked with people in the past. There were things that worked in my past with anxiety, and there's things that I've learned through my own experience to help the people I help now to an even better degree. So a lot of the reasons why people can't kind of follow training and nutrition, especially nutrition plans, well enough to get the results out of them is related to emotional and mental issues. So they know not to eat ice cream at 9 p.m. We all know that. And sometimes it's just pure hunger. Sometimes it's more something serious. Like they have an emotional need or that's not being met, a love need, happiness need. There's some kind of emotional, mental state kind of issue that's different than what they want. And they use food as therapy to try to cover that gap. And my job as a nutritionist is to help them figure out what that is. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor in any way. I don't have those kind of like certifications and degrees. I've just learned things over 18 years of training clients and 2,000 plus clients that have helped. And it's just something I want to share in this podcast. I don't think trying any of these would hurt you in any way, but it's just something you can try. Like I said, it's worked for myself, worked for people I know, and let's see what you think. So let's go through them. If any of them strike your fancy, you can give them a try and see what you think. Of course, if I'm going to give you 8, I would assume you should try all 8 and read a whole bunch of books too. But the more things you do try to manage and control your anxiety, the better chance you'll have of doing so. The more you kind of shun off or don't try or think are stupid, you might be missing the thing that might actually make a difference. So one thing I thought that, like when I was younger, and I mean like early 20s, late teens, if I had heard the concept of like mantras, like daily mantras, I would have probably thought like the person was like goofy or weird. But even daily mantras can have an enormous positive effect on happiness and correcting negative self-talk. So mantras can be something where like I forget the SNL skit, but there was an SNL skit with something smiley or something. There was this dude that used to look in a mirror and tell himself how good he was, and he had a skit one time with Michael Jordan, which became popular and was freaking hilarious. But he would tell himself positive things when he would look in the mirror. And as dorky as that sounds, that's a big thing. Like for a lot of people, they don't hear positivity throughout the day. So teaching yourself to find your positive traits and try to enhance those, promote those, grow those, and value those can be a huge, huge difference. So even something goofy like mantras and just positive self-talk in the mirror can make a big difference. So don't disclude. I don't even know if that's a word, but don't don't dismiss. That would be probably a better word. That actually is a word. Don't dismiss things before you try them. Okay. Cool. So the first one that I think has a big effect is daily actions in creating a daily purpose. So often they say idle hands are the devil's playground, so idle minds are the devil's playground as well. So the less you're doing things, the less you're active and have a purpose to every day, the more your brain is open to having kind of negative thoughts or weird thoughts or counterproductive thoughts. So having daily actions that create purpose for you, that give you something to focus on and do for the day, can have a big effect. So I know for myself, when I was having my worst moments of anxiety, really the only reprieve I had of it was when I was training clients. So I was so focused in on the client's needs and what was going on with the exercises and nuances of the sets and reps, the structures, the organization of the workout, and their technique and keeping them safe, that I didn't really have time for anything else in my brain. There was no room for anything else in my brain. So I found training people to be a very good kind of alleviation of pain. And every once in a while I'd flare up a little bit, here and there, but it was often the best I felt was when I was training people, which was representative of my mind being most active. So that can be a big thing with anxiety is if somebody has either a daily job that's kind of mind numbing and boring, or if they have a lot of downtime or free time, they can often get into negative mental cycles and negative mental kind of environments and conditions that aren't going to be helpful towards controlling anxiety. So having a purpose, having daily tasks, goals, hobbies, whatever, that can make a big difference. So towards that step, I actually started kind of tracking. You might be able to hear somebody deadlifting in the background, by the way. So welcome to the podcast being filmed in a gym. And good job, Brian. And I actually mean that good job. He's actually doing good work, so good for him. And we all don't mind somebody deadlifting a little bit if it's helping them, and we're still able to hear the podcast. so I actually am happy for him. But sidetrack there. What I started doing for myself was recording daily habits and giving myself little mini goals per day. And that made a big difference for me. And the clients that I've introduced that to, it's made a big difference for them as well. So that is something that is universally kind of true, is that idle minds is the devil's playground kind of concept. So give your brain something to do. Give your brain, give it some activity, give it something creative and fun to think of. So think about this is in the sense of most often mentally we try to avoid anxiety. Well, what are you doing to actually address it? So it's hard. Too often people focus on running away. Let me avoid. Well, what are you doing to address it? Something proactive, something towards it, rather than something always away and letting it chase you down. So daily habits can help. So I have 8 things that I actually track every day that I feel like if I do these 8 things, they give me my best life. I'm definitely not 8 for 8 every day. So most commonly I'm at like 6 or 7 out of 8, and just kind of it fluctuates which ones I miss here and there. But I purposely chose ones that were very hard to maintain consistently because it gives me that striving challenge to get better every day. And it gives my brain something to continually try to figure out how to solve that problem, so to speak. So be active, give yourself a daily purpose. That'll help a lot. The second thing we have is a happiness journal. So way back in podcast 247, we talk about a daily happiness routine. Now, that podcast was actually around the time that I was dealing with some anxiety. And I found a daily happiness routine made a big difference for me. So what this was, at the time, at the night, I would kind of recap through my day. I would think about, like, what did I do that day that made me laugh? What did I do that day that I felt like was good towards my purpose? Like, did I help someone else in life? How did I influence other people? I used to track my quote-unquote helps, which will be like ways that I influence other people's lives positively, whether that was through like a social media post, whether that was the clients I worked with that day, people I texted or emailed, just talking to like a grocery store clerk and making them have a smile on their face before I left. So I used to do that all the time, and that helped me think of the positivity and the happy things of life, and that made a big difference. So you can listen more into that in podcast 247 titled Daily Happiness Routine. But it was basically a thing I did every day that kind of helped me recap the day. It helped me end the day on very positive mindset. It helped give me proactive thoughts towards the next day, so that as I was trying to give my mind to rest, I was actually thinking of positive, proactive things of the next day and happy thoughts of the current day, rather than fears and worries and what ifs and all that shit. So being active and purposeful towards what you want your brain to do is a big, big, big step, because your brain will do things whether you want it to or not. And if you don't tell it what to do, it may do negative things, such as think about the what ifs of things, worry about this, worry about that, stress over this, stress about that. So instead of letting your brain dictate what to think of, give it something to think of. You be in charge and you tell it what you want to think of. And a framework of the proper type of questions can help. So go listen to podcast 247 to learn more about that. Now, next thing we have is remind yourself of the opposite. So a little bit of a weird phrasing, but one of the things that messed me up when I was having anxiety was something that I had believed to be true, and the trajectory of my life that I thought was going to happen. There were some changes that were made, and it really shook me because it was just a change that I didn't necessarily want. It wasn't a change that I felt was best for me. And then you start worrying about the what ifs. Am I going to be happy again? Am I going to have the life that I want? What is going to change now? And I felt like at times that life had let me down. Now, I've mentioned in past podcasts, so I'm a Christian and I believe in God. So in a way, I was frustrated with God in the sense that life didn't work the way that I wanted it to. And feel free to laugh because, God's plan, when you're a Christian, you'll believe in a sense that God has your best interest in mind for you. So when things happen to you that are negative, it doesn't mean God caused it. He can make something good from it. And at that time, I was just frustrated because what had happened in my life, I felt like maybe he had let happen or he had caused to happen when I didn't agree with it. So I was kind of frustrated with him. Now, I have since learned that there was a lot of positives out of it and yada, yada, yada. But at the time, I was kind of annoyed and kind of frustrated. And at that time, I decided was to start tracking every day that I felt like God protected me. Like, how many days did I have good days? So if you're not Christian, don't worry about the God part. Just think to yourself, is how many days do I have that are good, that don't have the thing that I'm anxious over a lot happen? So, goofy example, but to get us started, is say I had anxiety over the fear of an alien abduction. Well, did I get abducted today? No. So that's a pretty good day. So I would record that as a good day. Tomorrow, I would go through tomorrow, and if I didn't get abducted by aliens, I would mark that down as another good day. And I might find I have 90 days in a row that I have not been abducted by aliens. So then it starts to let me think, well, what's the likelihood of tomorrow being the day that the aliens come and abduct me? Well, it's pretty low. Hasn't happened in 90 days. Why would it happen tomorrow? So I might think, well, you never know. That's my luck, And all of a sudden another 90 days goes by and you haven't been abducted by aliens for 180 days. And you're like, you know what? This is getting less and less kind of common, that this should be a fear that I have. Like, it's not happening. Like, so do I really need to freak out about this every day if it hasn't happened for 180 days? So for 180 days, I had anxiety over aliens abducting me. It didn't happen. So I probably don't need to have the same level of anxiety over the next 180 days. Now, I do understand that an alien abduction is a pretty ridiculous example. However, I have no clue what each individual person listening to this is going to have anxiety over. So whatever your anxiety issue is, if it's a singular type thing, like what if I don't have enough money? What if I don't have, if my partner leaves me, my spouse leaves me? What happens if something happens to my kids? What happens if, blah, 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 I get fired from my job? Whatever it is, that's the thing that you think might be causing a lot of anxiety for you. And you might have a couple things, but often there's going to be just a couple or one. How many days has the opposite of that happened? So you may have the fear of losing your job. Well, start tracking every day. Did I lose my job today? No. Did I lose my job today? No. Did I lose my job today? No. If you track that every day, you might start to realize that the anxiety you're having is being flared up and continued and grown and kind of nurtured and like watered, so to speak. The anxiety you're having is being continued by anticipation rather than reality. So what is actually happening versus what you're afraid might happen? If you start tracking the opposite, quote unquote, then you might find, again, that your fear is based on anticipation, not on reality. And you can remind yourself then, what's the realistic thing that might happen tomorrow versus what is my anticipation of what might happen tomorrow? And you can start to lessen the anxiety you have on tomorrow, knowing that what you're afraid of is less and less and less and less as every day goes by, is less and less likely to happen. So you can start realizing the difference between anticipation versus reality anxiety. We want to have anxiety on reality, meaning I want to be aware of, protective of, I want to be prepared for what truly is happening in my life, not what I fear may happen in my life. Okay? So the fourth thing we got here is avoid triggers. So of course, there you all hear this. So whatever you have anxiety over, if there's a way to avoid it or adjust for it, that helps a lot. So something crazy that shocked me when I had anxiety was I would freak out when I get stuck in traffic. And holy cow, was that a huge surprise. It didn't make any sense. At no point in my life have I ever been stuck in traffic and something bad happened to me. But for some reason, when I got stuck in traffic, I felt a lack of control over the situation. What if this? What if that? What if I ran out of gas? What if I had to pee really bad and I tried to pee on the side of the road and all of a sudden I got a ticket from a cop? So your brain does a bunch of stupid, weird kind of what ifs. And I found for myself that if I carried liquid with me, that helped. Because at the time, it was, I live in South Carolina and it's hot as shit in the kind of summer and fall. So I would be like afraid of like, man, if it's 110 degrees and my car breaks down, if I have to walk a mile somewhere, am I going to be hydrated? Am I going to be okay? So I started just taking liquids with me. I started carrying like a package of cashews in my car, so I always had food. I also put a Broncaid pack in my car. Broncaid, by the way, is like a bronchodilator. It helps you breathe better. So that was something that I thought might help protect me. So I had more protections around me or more preparations around me. So that helped me not feel so anxious when I would get stuck in traffic. So think about, is there something that happens maybe on a regular basis, maybe a daily basis or weekly basis, that flares up your anxiety? And it maybe isn't even directly related to what you normally are anxious about, but does it cause anxiety to you? Does trying to remember a lot of things throughout the day cause anxiety? If so, get a freaking planner book and write that shit down. Get it out of your brain. So there are ways we can do, like steps we can take, for example, or better wording, steps we can take to kind of better address or better prepare for our triggers. So that is something we definitely want to do. What can you take charge of? How can you be better prepared? How can you lessen the intensity of the fear, the intensity of the anxiety of that moment? So not only do we want to avoid triggers, we want to plan for and adjust to our triggers. And that helps a lot as well. So we got a couple more. I'm going to go a little bit quicker through these. So number 5 is self-talk. We have to learn how to talk to ourselves positively. If you beat yourself up, you will always be negative because you are always putting yourself in a negative state. You have to be extremely careful and be very aware of how you talk to yourself. You can be your own worst enemy at times. So you need to be aware of that. You need to start addressing that. So in podcast 528, we talk about dealing with negative self-talk. So you can go listen to podcast 528 and learn more about how to talk, control it, be aware of it, control it, and correct it. So that's going to help a lot. Okay. So number 6 we have is to phone a friend. So make sure you have friends. Make sure you have a support system. So I have a very good friend of mine. We have a QRF agreement. QRF stands for Quick Response Force, and it's kind of like a military term. And my friend and I have an agreement that if I were to text him QRF, he will stop everything he's doing, anything that's within his control to stop, and he will call me immediately. And I have the same agreement with him. If he texts me QRF, I would stop anything I'm doing, anything, and I will call him immediately. So our QRF code or QRF agreement means I am in ridiculous need. I need your help now. So it's not, text me when you get a chance, call me when you can, buddy. It's now. So I have an agreement with a friend for that because it helped me know that I wasn't alone. It helped me know that I would have support if and when I needed it. So do you have that for yourself? Do you have the support system around you? Do you have a sense of not being alone in your issue? Now, if you do have that sense of being alone, but you refuse to talk to anybody about it, you're doing it to your damn self. So let someone in. It does not mean you are weak in any way whatsoever. So I've been personal training for 18 years. I've had over 2,000 clients. I will tell you that every single human being I have ever met and trained had something they dealt with on a regular basis. That was an emotional, mental kind of issue that they were working around and had to address in their life. Everyone is messed up. Okay? We all have demons. We all have things we work against. Every single person. So to tell someone that you have them, you're actually probably going to just relieve them of the fear that they were alone as well. So find a friend, get a support system, make a QRF buddy, whatever you got to do, okay? Get support from someone. Now, who do you get support from? Big thing is, select someone whose life reflects what you want. Do not pick somebody who's batshit crazy and has their own crazy issues and don't know how to handle theirs. Not going to help you, okay? So getting on board a crazy train just makes you crazy. Don't do it. So pick somebody whose life reflects what you want. If they live a life that you would like to live, chances are they'll help you learn to do it their way too. So maybe not their way, but you can learn how to do it your way in their kind of molding or their example. But my QRF buddy he's absolutely a person I would want to live life like. So amazing human being, great character. And that's somebody who, if I became more like him, it would benefit my life. So make sure you get support from someone who is going to improve your life by being around you. And that'll promote you to work towards improving theirs too. It'll help you work to be a better person because you won't want to bring them down. Okay? So number 7 is don't stop the crazy pills. Okay? I kind of said stop, don't stop. But number 7 is don't stop the crazy pills. So often there's a joke that when somebody says oh, how you been feeling? They're like, I've been feeling a lot better. So you're talking to somebody like anxiety or like depression or like schizophrenia, something like that, like memory pills. And often when people feel like things are going better, they stop taking the medicine. So somebody says well, I'm not taking the memory pills anymore. My memory's been pretty good. Well, that's probably why you have a good memory, because your memory's been the memory pills been working. So the crazy pills the joke is when somebody who's crazy takes medicine and they feel good, and then they stop taking it because they felt good, and then they're just going to go crazy again. So don't stop the daily steps. So the routine that you get into to help you manage and control your anxiety. When your anxiety lessens and you actually get a sense of better control, don't back off. If it's working, keep working it. Okay? Now, number 8, last one we got is reach out. So if you need any help, if you want help creating kind of a personalized daily plan on how to control your anxiety, absolutely 1,000,000% we will help. Okay, our email is brutalirongyM@gmail.com. We'll help. Just tell us a little bit about what's going on. Work with us. We'll do a consultation if you need, whatever, but the help is available to you. So we can help you create a personalized plan. We can help you create steps, daily steps, specific to your needs. So hopefully today's podcast kind of gave you some things that you can take and use. But if you would like more specified help, like specific to your needs, please reach out to us. Our email is brutalirongyM@gmail.com, and I promise we'll help. So I had anxiety myself. I absolutely hated it. I was robbed of happiness in those moments, and I don't want somebody else to feel the same. So please, 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 if you're struggling at all, reach out to us and we'll help. Okay? Cool. So, if you like this podcast or if you think it might be helpful to someone else, please share it. Please, please, please. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalironGym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.